Hi, I'm Neil Sackmary.
Hi, I'm State Trooper Sean Hagstrom with the Nevada State Police Highway Patrol Division, PEIO. Please stay tuned for the next episode of Trooper Talk.
And together, we can make a difference. Here we are live at the 360 Vegas studios with this edition of Trooper Talk. We have Trooper Hagstrom and we have Captain West here from Parole and Probation. Gentlemen, thanks so much for coming here.
Thanks for being here, Neil.
So we just finished episode 150. And, one of the things that's really cool about the Trooper Talk is that we get the parole and probation part, so we're able to talk about things from a parole and probation standpoint. And then we get the highway patrol because we want people to know that there are consequences, that if you speed, if you do reckless driving, if you drive impaired and you happen to kill someone, that there are consequences that they will meet. We always say Officer McClarty. You know what I'm saying? Because you have made a choice, and that choice has had dire consequences. So, we're now into June, and so I would like to start off with you, and I would like you to tell us about where you have been for your career when it comes to Nevada Department of Public Safety.
Oh, wow, yeah. So this August will be my 20th year. So my first assignment I had with state police was highway patrol. I started out and I graduated the academy. And then I got assigned in the middle of nowhere, Tonopah. Tonopah.
Okay.
And mind you, I came from the Bay Area.
Okay.
And the Bay Area is a big city, millions of people down there. So I ended up moving to Reno. I was living in Reno in 2004 and then finished the hiring process. Well, come to find out, there was only rural duty assignments that were available at the time when I applied. The recruiting sergeant at the time was telling me, he's like, oh, we have A, B, and C, and he's like, oh, and we have Tonopah. I'm like, well, what's Tonopah like? He's like, well, it's the middle of the state. It's the largest beat in the state for the highway patrol. It's good pace to learn at, you know. And so I'm like, oh, okay. So I look it up on the map, and I'm like, mind you, I have a house in Sparks, right? So I'm like, oh, I can commute back and forth during the weekends if I want to, because it's, 3.5 hour drive, so it's not horrible.
No, not too bad.
So I started out in Tonopah. So I did a year and a half in Tonopah. I was 22 years old. And so I spent my time there. I put in my time, as they say, in a rural duty station, which was great. It was a good learning experience, slower paced. You dealt with some interesting stuff, though, out there in the rurals, because it's you and the sheriff's deputies to handle everything. They end up having to handle all the local stuff, but out there, you're it. So got to learn a lot, great experiences, and then I ended up transferring into Reno and got back into a bigger city, worked graveyards, some swing shifts, stuff like that. And then in 2010, I transferred down and worked at the Highway Patrol here in Las Vegas. Got into a bunch of different training and instructor certifications, stuff like that. And in 2014, I transferred to Capitol Police as a sergeant. Oh. And so I was a sergeant there for about 2 years. And then I came back over to the Highway Patrol as a sergeant with the Highway Patrol. And I think that was till 2018, I believe. And then from there, I transferred into our Office of Professional Responsibility, which is what people refer to as internal affairs.
Like Sergeant Smecca.
Just like Sergeant Smecca, yeah.
That's where he's at.
That's where I was.
Okay.
So I spent about a year there.
Okay.
And then I came back to the Highway Patrol. And then in 2020, I got promoted to lieutenant at Parole and Probation. So that was my 4th division. And so from 2020 to 2024 present, with Parole and Probation, I got promoted in October of 2022 as a captain.
It's really tremendous because every time that we get someone to come on to Trooper Talk, we always learn. And the coolest thing is that what you described is exactly what we talk about all the time, because we talk about the rural areas, right? And the fact that, you know, if someone is interested in working for Nevada Highway Patrol, that they can go to those rural areas, but there, you know, that's really it. You know, it's like you and, you know, maybe the sheriff's deputies, because it's such a rural area. And so it's very interesting, because in your career, what you've done is what we always talk about, right?
And you know what, we always talk about that, because what's exciting about our DPS family, our Nevada State Police, is that you're able to move to all these divisions. And we've brought this up numerous times. I mean, you don't have to be stagnant. If you don't want to work on the highway patrol side, you can always switch to parole and probation. You got state fire marshal, Nevada Division of Investigations, all different things that you can do, and he's done it. Matter of fact, and it's Captain West, but I call him Billy, but you know what? The reason I can do that is we worked together. We were both K-9 handlers together. When we brought the K-9 program started way back. I couldn't tell you the exact date when it happened, but they had got rid of the K-9 division for a while, but they re-upped the K-9 division, and we were part of the original K-9 team coming back to the Nevada Highway Patrol. So he had K-9 Hilo, which was a Belgian Malinois. He was a hard knucklehead. I had a hard knucklehead. I had Benny, which was Belgian Malinois also, but then I ended up getting Jaeger, which was that black German Shepherd. So we worked together on K-9 division, so it was fun. I mean, it was a lot of fun.
So you hanging out is like reminiscing of like these times, and that's what's important. You know what I mean? Like the Nevada State Police has all these different divisions, and that, you know, it's really part of this big overall family. The thing that that's really probably very interesting is that from the time as being a trooper to now being on the parole and probation side, you understand that, like we have the dispatchers and things like this, how they have to go on the ride-alongs, so that you can understand how to do your job even that much better.
Well, and also, even with being in all these different divisions, he knows how everything works. And that's why it's so good to have persons that move around in the divisions to move up. You know, now he's a captain. He knows what the makings of the Highway Patrol, what goes on with it, also with parole and probation and Capitol Police, because he's worked all those divisions. So he has an understanding where other people don't, and that's one of the reasons he's a better supervisor by it. You know, doing those
100%.
divisions.
It's fantastic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you get more of a global perspective, right? So like at decision making at my level, I can relate it to the other divisions, right? Because some of the decisions we make may trickle over into the Highway Patrol, or we may need their help. Same thing with Capitol Police, right? And those different things. So you get kind of like the insight and an educated guess, so to speak. You know?
And so where do you see your career in the next, do you want to continue to move up and stuff like that? Do you like being a captain? Do you like being supervisory? Do you enjoy that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, right? The thing that we always get as lieutenants, captains, and above, right, is like, they always ask, you know, whether it's civilian friends, whoever, right? So what's it like working the streets and stuff like that? And unfortunately, we got to give them the boring answer, right? We say, well, I fight more emails and keyboards, and got to be careful from paper cuts, you know, more than anything. But because it's more of an administrative support role, right? And trying to help steer the division in the direction we need to go based on, you know, the governor's priorities and priorities of our chief and stuff like that, right, and director. So we don't get to give them the cool answer like we're chasing people around town and, you know,
but I mean, he's been able to work it though, so he knows what goes on the other side, which is nice. And I do got to defend you guys, because I was always a cop's cop doing all the road work my whole career. And, you know, and then a lot of the troops probably think, oh, what do these captains, lieutenants do? They just going up there having coffees and conversation. And me being in the PIO office, I am over inundated with
Yeah.
work. It is unbelievable the kind of work and paperwork and emails you got to answer, and not only with the press, but just the regular public calling and everything else. And it's overwhelming. I mean, and I got a whole new perspective on how command is, because we don't often see, because our troopers are usually out there hitting
Doing
the
the
beat,
work.
doing the work, right? And they don't often see what happens on the other side. So it's kind of nice to kind of tell people, hey, they are working pretty tough. I mean, it's I'm working harder than I was on the road. I actually could go back to the road, but because I retired, I don't want the liability if something does happen after I've already retired, to be honest with you. You know what I mean?
No, 100%.
So it's better for me just to interact with the public and do stuff like this. Right
Yeah.
now, so.
Sean may be able to relate. Like when you start climbing into administrative roles, on the street, you can get physically exhausted, right? Because you may be stuck on a crash scene directing traffic for hours or something like that as a trooper, right? Running around, tracking down offenders, surveillance, whatever it is on the P&P side. Finding the person to arrest, whatever it may be, right? So there's a lot of physical exhaustion. But when you start climbing into the administrative ranks, there's a lot of mental exhaustion because you're having to be tactful, you're having to answer emails, you're having to give direction, personnel issues. There's all these different things that start creeping up, right? People are coming into your office, looking for problems, bringing solutions, those different things that you got to kind of sort through, and it's like all day nonstop. So, but we're tough. We can handle it. Huh?
We can. We've been there. We've done it.
And
right?
the thing is that at the end of the day in Las Vegas and the surrounding area, right? We, not to say we have problems and all that, but there's problems everywhere. But like
Every city.
we do have some very big problems, and one of the problems, and again. Since we were filming the 150th episode and all that type of stuff, we have some pictures we normally show we're going to go over, right? But we stopped doing pictures and stuff because we were talking about the 150th episode. But, over the past 3 weeks, you know what I'm saying? People lost their lives. There were wrong-way drivers that went onto roads that caused accidents, and again, not talking specifics, right? But that, according to news articles in Las Vegas, right, that said that people were under impairment. Like 2 in the afternoon, 5 in the afternoon, not that everybody's drinking at 2 o'clock in the morning and those are the people. No, like in the middle of the day, people are driving down the road and somebody went on the wrong way, and so these problems that we continue to talk about all the time, those people. And I keep saying that they don't care because they make these choices and then they end up into a parole and probation department. They could have been the nicest person in the entire world. They could have never done, jaywalked, right? And, they decided to, meet a friend at a restaurant and they had a few too many and the game is over.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to the parole and probation, good people every day end up either in a parole or probation standpoint because they make a bad choice. And so when it comes to the administrative, right, like, you see it globally. And when we always talk to Officer McClarty, it's like, we have to stop these people because these are the people that are good people, but they're making these bad choices.
Yeah, there's so I kind of talk about this like on a couple different levels, right? So first and foremost is education, right? So we have to do a better job getting out there and educating folks. Years ago, I used to participate in this event. We called it Think Before You Drink, right? And what we would do is one of the local bars would have folks come in and then we'd give them a sheet. And they would have an alcoholic beverage and then they'd check it off, drink number 1. And then we'd wait and then we would actually put them through a field sobriety test and give them a breathalyzer, right? And so as time went on, they'd have more and more drinks, and then they would start to see and get the education of how quickly impairment starts with their body and their selves and stuff like that based on what they're drinking. So that kind of educates the public, is to say, hey, you know what I mean, this is what your body's doing and how quickly it can get to that level to where you're driving impaired. Of course, we had rides that would take them from
Yeah, we got to disclaim that.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But
yeah,
No,
absolutely.
but it's like when people put on those drunk goggles,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And people think, oh, it's very funny, and then like one of the TV shows that I watch all the time, when they have where they show people in the bar and they say that when you work behind the bar you can't drink, and they're like, why? And they're like, because when you're wasted and you're pouring somebody's drink, it's like it's not good.
Yeah.
And so impairment can be done so quickly. And, here's what I'm going to tell you. And I sent you a text, okay? So I was driving on the road last Sunday, okay? And I got on the Far Hills exit in my car. And I got on the on-ramp to come on the 215. Okay? And I'm coming down the on-ramp, and I did something that was very, very bad. Okay? And that was that I picked up my phone. Okay? And I picked up my phone, and I'm driving my car, right, like this, and I picked up my phone. I don't even remember what I had to make a phone call to call somebody. But if it would have waited 10 minutes, it wouldn't have made a difference. Okay? And so all I remember was that I'm driving, and I picked up my phone, and by the grace of his universe, okay, because I sent him a text right after, there was a car in the right-hand breakdown lane, totally legal. Like, what, you know what I mean? Like, they were in the far right, they were in the breakdown lane, they had a problem with their car, that's where they should be.
Yeah.
I was like this close, like that would have been it.
It only takes seconds.
Because I would have hit the back of them. First of all, I don't know what would happen to those people. Does that make sense?
Sure.
But like, I was at 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And so like, that would have been it. And so it takes 1 second when you're totally sober. You know what I mean? Like, I woke up and that when it comes to this impairment, I can only imagine to the fact that when someone is impaired, how you know what I mean? And so we have to stop this impairment because I know from firsthand, right? And then the other thing I was going to tell you was that I called Star NHP. The greatest thing ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they picked up on one ring. And the reason I called is because I was driving down the road and I saw a mattress in the middle of the road.
Oh, yeah.
And so I called on the phone and I said, "Hi, this is Neil. You know, we filmed the Trooper Talk with Trooper Hagstrom. I just wanted to let you know that there's a mattress in the middle of the road." She said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm on the 215. She goes, "Which direction?" I go, "That way?" And she goes, "What's the exit you just got off?" I go, "Town Center." She goes, "What was the exit before?" She goes, "I know exactly where you're at."
Because they know all that.
They do.
And it's great. Our dispatchers are phenomenal.
Yeah.
Hey, just get back to the impairment too.
Yes.
When Billy was talking about how you can get affected by having more drinks and the impairment, but that also comes into play by your weight, if you drink or don't drink. Because some people are casual drinkers and whatever, but a lot of times everybody's body's different. So what one person might drink compared to another person is totally different. Yep. And it can creep up with you real quick. And like we always tell everybody, if you feel different, don't get in your vehicle. There's no excuse. We've talked about this numerous times.
Excuse.
We got all the ride shares, taxis, buses, everything, even designated drivers, or you call a friend, they're going to pick you up.
Yeah.
So there is no excuse to be driving impaired nowadays. And now, this last week or two, I've been inundated with wrong way driver fatalities.
That's what
impairment.
I'm saying, right.
And they're impaired. And we've gotten 2 of them. And the sad thing is, I won't discuss it, but
Right.
there's some other charges that are going to be on one of these impairment cases where it was a head-on, but they got the consequences are coming down. They're going to be gone for quite a while because there's a lot of other factors in there. I'm not going to discuss it, but some of it probably went to the press.
You have to deal with.
Yeah,
like you have to deal with this.
Yeah, and two of our major contributing factors of fatalities is speed and impairment here in Nevada. So people need to realize that too. So that's why we're always out here. That's why we're here today, to educate people what to do and what not to do. You know, summer's coming and now we have teenagers out there. And now we're having a rash of teenagers, you know, probably drinking and driving, which, you know, I hope some of the parents have good talks with their children so we don't come knocking at their door letting them know that they're involved in a fatal crash. You know what I mean? That's one of the worst things to tear up a family, and that's a family member that's not going to be there for Thanksgiving or Christmas or any of the holidays. And I mean, we've talked about this numerous times, but we got to reiterate to the public because it's still happening. I mean, it's really ramping up here in the summer, and we don't want these fatalities. And matter of fact, we talked about pedestrians. I want to add that on a little bit too. We're up to 53 pedestrian deaths in the state of Nevada, and we're just at the beginning of June. It's unbelievable. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of these pedestrian deaths the pedestrians are at fault because we do have a lot of vehicles staying on scene, and you know they're not using crosswalks or crossing at night. People don't see it, you know what I mean? And they're the ones that are at fault victims. So, but there are also other causes for these crashes for pedestrians, but it's out of control. 53 so far through the state.
We have to do that. We have to. The pedestrians have to be more conscious, and when we're driving on the surface streets, you know what I'm saying? We do have to pay more attention to that. You know what I mean? Right.
And we want to have everybody know just your mobile's off, slow down, and always buckle up. You know,
always buckle up.
Yep.
Summer's here. You saved a life, and
that's right.
And that is probably one of the most wonderful stories because it's the truth. And the thing is that it happened specifically. It's really wonderful. So I'm glad you shared it with me. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. All right, we're gonna turn to this camera, and then we're gonna wave, and we'll say, "See you later."
See you later.
See you later.
Bye. We're getting you on there, Johnny. I don't care what anybody says. Johnny.